Hello, everybody. How's it going? This is Kevin Asani, and I am debuting a segment today that I'm going to be calling Hammer Time. I am the Progressive Blacksmith, and I'm going to use this segment to hammer away at all the stuff that's bugging the hell out of me, and I just want to rant about it. And you guys are going to be the people enjoying my rants instead of me having to write it all the time. Now you guys get to hear it. So I wanted to just give you guys an idea of the all the aftermath that happened after yours truly, defended Alex Jones after he got deplatformed from multiple social media websites. So initially, what happened, I didn't really know everything that I didn't know all the stuff that all the details of what happened. I looked into it. I watched a couple of videos from other hosts that covered it. I looked at some articles and stuff. He got deplatformed from, I believe it was Apple, like iTunes, Spotify, and I think Facebook. Apparently, he's still on Twitter. So he did all that stuff. He got removed off of all those websites because he said some really gross inappropriate things. One of the things that, as far as when it comes to why he was deplatformed off of Facebook, was because he said that he did a segment, I believe it was last week or week before that, where he said that drag queens should be burned alive. Now, of course, that's a horrible thing to say. It's not. That's not something that that should be tolerated by anybody. And I understand Facebook wanting to remove him for that. However, I think the process that was taken out and the way it was handled, I don't think it was the way to handle it. And let me just explain what I mean. So a lot of people are coming out there and saying, "Well, listen, Facebook is a private entity. They are their own corporate. They're their own corporate company. They can do whatever they want." Nobody is saying that Facebook shouldn't be allowed to do deplatform people that are on their websites. Nobody has a right to a Facebook page. However, this when it comes to Facebook, when it comes to Twitter, all these different outlets, these are all public forums. These are all places that people are involved, in a public way where they take part in public discourse essentially, and then they post their opinions and whether you're posting a picture of your cat or you're posting a picture of what you had for dinner, or you're posting a political rant, just like this one. This is going to be posted on there, and people get to see it. And I think the way the way it was handled through Facebook and through those other entities, I think it was a little bit unfair, because what it was is that an entire corporate entity was able to just make a unilateral decision to just get rid of this person that was on that was on their platform. Now, in my opinion, it would have been more fair to discuss this matter with Alex Jones. So, for example, I think it would have been better if it was a situation where Facebook had a conversation with Alex Jones, told him, "Listen, you can't be saying that drag queens need to be burned alive." By the way, he did this in a segment on his show where drag queens were pictured with like a kid's birthday party or a kid's school or something. It was really weird the way Alex Jones was just freaking out about it. But whatever. So as usually, he's that guy. He freaks out about everything. So that's what he does. He says crazy shit about all kinds of subjects. But anyway, I don't think it was right to just completely deplatform him unilaterally and just get rid of him. I think it would have been a better idea to sit him down and talk to him and tell him this is what needs to be done. Now, according to a lot of other people out there and reports that had come out, he had been warned many times on Facebook that he, so he was violating the terms of agreement, terms of service, whatever you call it, and he was, he broke those rules, I guess, and Facebook had told him that multiple times. Now, when they had told him, I guess he violated it, and then he kept going along with what he was doing, and then he violated it again, and then they kept going along with it, and then so it's just like they couldn't stop him from saying the things that he was saying. but I just don't feel I don't feel that it's fair for people like that, at a higher level, at the highest level of Facebook, of Twitter, of all these whatever, whatever entity or whatever platform it is, to be making those decisions. Because then what you do is you end up creating the precedent where anybody can be removed from saying anything that's offensive or over the top. And who gets to decide that? The people that get decided are the people that run Facebook, that run all these different platforms. And how do we know what their thoughts on being offended is? Now, what if I post something? I post not offensive stuff, but I think I post things on my Facebook page where I would offend people, and people would be like, "Oh my God, that is terrible. You said something really bad or really mean about the Democrats, or you said something really mean about Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or whoever, Joe Biden." Anybody can go out there and say, "Oh well, that's really offensive." So somebody can complain about me, and they can say, "Wow, that's a really offensive thing that person said. That's terrible. How could you allow that?" You shouldn't be allowing people like that to be posting stuff like that on, different, that social media platform, whatever it is. And, so what happened is I got my old Twitter account, permanently suspended. That happened about, I think, was 5 or 6 months ago. And when that happened, I wasn't doing anything wrong, but people reported me, and I ended up getting kicked off. And that really, I was at a pretty high level of followers at that point, so I was pissed when that happened. And I had to put a lot of work into promoting myself on there, and then all of a sudden I basically just got I got deplatformed. I got kicked off there, and I tried multiple times to reverse that suspension, and it didn't. It was to no avail, essentially. Now, when it comes to the actual thing that Alex Jones said, so again, he said that drag queens should be burned alive, burning in hell and in flames and all this stuff. So what happened was, and by the way, he's also said other things about inciting violence towards the kids that from the Parkland High School, which got shot up by one of the students that was there, and then he's also gone after the Sandy Hook survivors, the children over there, and also their families. And a lot of them have gotten death threats from his supporters. So from Alex Jones's supporters, they've gone out there and they've lobbed death threats at these people, which is terrible. And I'm going to get into the seriousness of that in a second, but I just wanted to break down the matter pertaining to what my defense is. So I already mentioned the fact that I don't believe that a corporate entity should be able to kick people off their platform like that, at least not in the way that they did it. Not saying that they shouldn't be doing it. And to be fair, I think he should have gotten taken off that platform based on the drag queens comment, burning drag queens comment. Again, it shouldn't have been done the way it did, but I understand that they wanted to do it the way that they did it. I just don't agree with it like that, but I get that they wanted to do it. So, but the way they did it, it's just ultimately wasn't the best way. But anyway, when it comes to the actual comment, so I've been dealing for the past 4 or 5 days or so. I've been dealing with a lot of people who were saying that they were accusing me of defending Alex Jones's comment and saying that Alex Jones should have stayed on Facebook because even though he made that comment about drag queens. Now, initially, I didn't know he made the comment about drag queens. Somebody sent me a link, and I looked into it, and I ended up learning more about it, and then I decided to make my decision that, okay, yeah, it was a fair thing to, get rid of him and take him off of there. Okay, so people evolve on their point of views. They learn something, and then they make, they make a declaration and say, this is what should have been done, and I agree with it, or I disagree with it, or whatever it is. And people were accusing me on Twitter, and then further on Facebook. First, it was on Twitter, because for the first 3 days after this news broke, I was arguing with trolls and shit on Twitter constantly. So what I did was, I said exactly, so it went exactly the way I said. I found out about this, about the story about how, he had attacked, he had said drag queens should get burned alive, and I said that's fucked up. He should get deplatformed for that. I don't agree with the process, but it happened the way it did, and I get the situation. I get the predicament that Facebook was in for doing that, as well as Spotify and Apple iTunes. So the bottom line is that I never defended his statements. I never said that he shouldn't get removed for that statement. I said he just shouldn't have been removed in general, and said that it should have been handled a different way. That was all my thing. That was the whole premise of my argument from the very very outset, until it changed because I found out about the drag queens comment. And then I changed. And then I changed my mind. I was like, yeah, you know what? He deserves to get removed for that. So it's totally understandable in that sense. However, people are coming out there on Twitter saying, "Oh, you're defending him. You're defending drag queens. You're defending him wanting to burn drag queens. You want drag queens to be burned alive." And then one idiot was saying that I wanted drag queens to be. He says that Alex Jones wanted drag queens to be burned alive, and then another one he said gay people wanted to be burned alive. So even the people that were attacking me didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then when I exposed that motherfucker, another person came after me, and said, "Oh, how dare you expose him for not agreeing with you." No, it's not that I didn't agree with him. It's the fact that he was lying about me, and he was putting it all over Twitter, and all these people were saying, "Oh, look, now you agree with Alex Jones wanting to burn drag queens alive." I never said that. So people are just making shit up about you, and then apparently you're supposed to just sit there and take it, and that's bullshit. And I'm not gonna let anybody do that to me. So this person and his cult followers accused me of doxing him, which is not that. That is not the definition of a doxing. Doxing is when you put private conversations or private, situations that you have with somebody, and then you expose it. He had made these comments on Twitter. Everybody gets to see them. It's all public. So and then what I did is I exposed it to a group. It was a group chat on Twitter, and then I showed all these people and said, "Hey, I know a lot of you guys probably know who this person is. I'm not going to say who it is, but a lot of guys you know this person." But I just want to show you what he's saying about me. And then one of the other people that I had actually been following and was following me on Twitter for a long time, she said, "How dare you do this? That's really fucked up because he didn't agree with you." No, that's not the fucking situation. So you don't even know what the fuck is going on. So that person should have stayed out of it from the very beginning. And then what coincided after that was I lost upwards nearly 40 followers on Facebook. Now, that's not a lot. That's not a ton because I have over 1,700 followers on Twitter, which is a decent amount, I guess, considering I've only had this account for 5 months or so. And so I lost a lot of followers, and to be fair, these were not just random people. These were people that I was really cool with for a long time. But all these people that had seen me exposing this guy, supposedly doxing him, those people, the people that were aligned with him, and defending him constantly, they were coming out and saying, "Oh, look what he said. I'm gonna unfollow him, or I'm gonna block him, or I'm gonna do whatever. Oh, how dare you do that?" And they said, he's a piece of shit and this and that. It's ridiculous. So then I go to Facebook. And I go on Facebook, and I post that. I basically post the same thing. I said, "Listen, I've been arguing with people on Twitter for the past 3 days." This was on, I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday that I posted it. And I said, "I've been arguing with people for the past 3 days regarding these Alex Jones things." I stated my same exact opinion that I had made on Twitter, of course, in just like one section, I don't know, multiple paragraphs, and. Excuse me, and I explained that, and I stated my position. Some people disagreed with me, some people agreed with me, but I had one asshole going out there strawmanning me. And I said in my post, "Don't fucking strawman me." I said to all the people on Twitter, "Don't fucking strawman me. My position is clear. I stated my position from the very outset. So don't try and say like, "Oh, well, you're defending Alex Jones," and the phrase they're using is this isn't a hill to die on, as in defending Alex Jones. Why are you dying? Why do you want to die on this hill? I'm like, I'm not dying on any hill. I'm defending the right for somebody to have freedom of speech to say something. Now, if they go out and threaten certain groups or people, then they deserve to be deplatformed. And I said that after I found out about the drag queens comment. And I stated that from the very beginning after I had found out about that comment. But people want to make things up, and they want to strawman, they want to obfuscate, they want to cherry pick your comments, and they just want to smear you. And then when you call them out for smearing, they're like, "Oh, well, what are you talking about? Why are you such a victim? And why are you acting all like acting like this?" I'm like, "Listen, I'm defending myself. So what do you want me to do? Am I just gonna sit there and be like, 'Oh no, it's perfectly fine that you said this fucking ridiculous thing about me'? Of course not." So people go out there and they just make a bunch of shit up. And, you know, I'm okay with people that are going to be attacking me and I don't know them. But it's a completely different thing if it's going to cause a bunch of people to then just constantly come at me, you know, when you get trolled by a bunch of people you don't know. Like, who wants to deal with that? Nobody wants to deal with that kind of shit. It's ridiculous. Nobody deserves to just get fucking, you know, plastered all over social media and then just harassed like hell. And that's basically what I was dealing with. Now, to be fair, I'm not, you know, I'm sure a lot of other people, celebrities and stuff, have gone through much worse. So I was dealing with it, you know, as much as I could, and I was trying to ignore some people. I had to block some people myself too because they kept bugging the hell out of me, and so that happened to me too. But so yeah, on Facebook the same thing happens. Some idiot comes on and says, you know, you support Alex Jones and you never said anything about you know, when Alex Jones was attacking the children from Sandy Hook and from the Parkland shooting, Parkland High School shooting, all that shit. Like, dude, listen, I don't even cover fucking Alex Jones on my page. Why would I give a shit about some carnival barker that's just whining about a bunch of conspiracies? I don't care about covering that guy. You know, he's somebody I choose to ignore. The only times I ever see videos on him is when other hosts on YouTube, different guys that I watch, Kyle Kalinske, Humanist Report, you know, Young Turks. So when they talk about, you know, Alex Jones and mock him and stuff, I like to see it. But I don't really give a shit. Like, why am I, you know, so I don't know, he posts something on Twitter, I mock it, fine. But for the most part, why am I going to go and cover some stupid-ass shit this maniac is saying on his stupid-ass show, you know, spouting conspiracy theories? That's not what I like to do, because I like to deal with the serious people, not idiots. Other people want to do it, they can do it, and I'll enjoy it, but that's not what I do. So people can whine about that all they want. You don't want to listen to my opinion, then don't listen to it. If you want me to cover Alex Jones, I'm not going to do that just because you want me to do it. I do my show. I do my show, my rant like this, or, you know, I write articles on what I want to write about. So that's the whole basis of this, you know, attack on me, that, you know, these people attacking me, whining about what I'm, you know, doing and what I'm not doing. And I'm just like, I'm not even that important of a person. I'm just some fucking asshole on Twitter and, you know, talking on this microphone here, you know, living in a one-bedroom apartment. I'm not an important person. I'm not somebody that's deeply influential. Now, maybe I will be at some point, and maybe some people do find me influential. But I'm not at the point where I'm trying to, you know, to make enemies. And when it comes to this issue, all I was doing was standing up for free speech. I believe that everybody has the right to speak their mind and say what they want to say. You know, the ACLU at one point many years ago, I think it was like in 1965 or something, they defended a bunch of neo-Nazis that were protesting in a heavily populated Jewish community, and it was called Skokie. And so they went through. They went to this. I think they went to the Supreme Court for it, and they argued their case to be allowed to be, you know, protesting, using their free speech rights to protest in this community. And the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, defended them. And they're still doing that today. Now, when it came to the case of Charlottesville, where Heather Heyer was killed, that happened last year, I believe. And it was just, I think the anniversary just came up, which is terrible. And, you know, the ACLU kind of shifted their methods, in the sense that they're not defending the right to violence. So you don't have the right to ram people with a car, driving a car in the middle of a protest and just crashing into people. That's fucked up. There's no way was the ACLU, you know, defending violence. They were never saying, yeah, I think it was the Unite to Right rally or something. You know, all those, whatever, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, they don't have the right to crash cars into people. Nobody's advocating for that. They're advocating for them to, you know, speak their mind and have freedom of speech. And even if you're saying something that's highly offensive, well, then too bad. I mean, then what you do is you say something highly offensive to them. Then you get offended, and then they get offended. Both sides get offended. So what difference? Like, what are you going to do? So shutting up Alex Jones, what do you think? So shutting up Alex Jones is going to do nothing. The guy's going to still have a platform somewhere, and he's still going to be able to, still going to be able to make his arguments, and people are actually going to treat him as more of a victim than he ever was, which he never really was until they made him a victim by getting rid of his platform. And now everybody's attacking him, and now he gets to pretend that he's a victim when he never really was a victim. But now he's a victim because he's been kicked off of the different platforms. And people are like, oh, well, he still has a website, so yeah, that's not a big deal. Yeah, okay, but that you can say that about anybody. So what if somebody doesn't have a website? What if the only thing they get kicked off is at Facebook? The only page I have that I state my views in long form is Facebook. Twitter is just somewhere I go and post articles and rant with people. I don't really I go back and forth with people. That's not where I do long form like opinions. So if my Facebook page got deleted, I would be pissed. I got pissed when my Twitter page was suspended. So when it comes to these matters, I think free speech needs to be treated in the highest sense of consideration. You need to look at it in a way that, listen, this is a right that every American in this country is afforded. And if you're taking it away, you're creating a lot of creating a lot of problems for everybody else, because then that precedent is set where everybody else has to be careful about what they're saying because they're going to offend somebody. So who wants to live their life like that? You should be able to state your views the way you want. Now, if you're inciting violence and you're threatening people, that's a completely different thing. I have never, ever threatened anybody on my page. I've never threatened anybody on Twitter. I've never threatened anybody on Facebook. Every opinion that I state, I make my arguments in a substantive way. People like it sometimes, people hate it sometimes. But the point is that I'm going out there and I'm a political commentator, whatever the hell you want to call me. I'm an opinion guy. I go out there and I state my opinion. Now, I put out facts, but the point is that I'm not going out there and trying to incite violence against anybody. So, but that's the thing. Anybody can make that argument. Oh, look, Kevin incited somebody to go attack Hillary Clinton, and then, something happened to Hillary Clinton, and, so Kevin Asani, progressive blacksmith, needs to be blamed for it. Now, of course, I think that's probably a long shot. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But because I'm not going that far. But you know what? Again, anybody can make that justification and say, oh, well, he did something that really hurt somebody's feelings, and he should be blamed for the harm that was done to them. So just think about these perspectives. Think about how your rights are being taken away, even if it's the tiniest amount. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for anybody on any side of the aisle. I don't care if you're left-wing, right-wing, communist, socialist, Stalinist, fascist, whatever, neo-Nazi, whatever the hell you are, white supremacist, Black Lives Matter, anything, a Jewish group, a pro-Jewish group, it doesn't matter. It's all bad. But Palestinians, I mean, look what's happening with the coverage, with the lack of coverage from the mainstream media regarding Yemen. They are completely avoiding talking about the Yemen war, where Saudi Arabia is bombing the shit out of Yemen right now, and people are, they have cholera. There's a cholera outbreak there, which is a perfectly curable disease, and perfectly curable sickness, and it's fucking up everybody's lives over there in Yemen. On top of the fact that they're being bombed to fucking pieces. So. And what does the mainstream media do? They ignore it because America is indebted to Saudi Arabia. So they're trying to cover their asses. They're trying to cover the asses of Saudi Arabia by not saying anything that's too, critical of Saudi Arabia. Just like they do with Israel. They don't cover anything when anything bad that's happening in Palestine. They try and avoid that subject as much as possible because they gotta cover, Benjamin Netanyahu's ass, basically. And when it comes to these kind of things, but my point is as far as when it comes to the subject of Yemen, if you see how the media is treating the Yemen story, and how Yemen is being bombarded with bombs, you should regard that in the same exact way you regard the Alex Jones situation, because so not only is the coverage of that horrible thing being censored, but then Alex Jones is being censored in certain ways, one way or another. Of course, it's not the same exact thing. I am not making a correlation between how the Yemeni war is not being covered and Alex Jones is being, censored, I guess if you want to call it. That is not. I'm not saying they're the same thing, but that's just the beginning of how it can start for somebody like Alex Jones, and then it can go end up affecting other hosts like myself having a platform on Facebook, doing something like this. Kyle Kalinske, Humanist Report, Tim Black. Young Turks, Jimmy Dore, all these different people can be affected because Alex Jones is affected. So that's just the start. By the way, I should also point out that that our United States government has had a role in influencing how information is put out on. So what kind of information is put out on Facebook and Twitter and etc. All these different platforms. The government, literally, this is not made up. The government is coming out and telling these different platforms, these different corporate entities, Facebook and all that stuff. They're telling them, listen, you need to regulate on this, this alt-right people. So the people that are in the white supremacist and neo-Nazi movement, you need to crack down on them because they're not really saying things that sound very appropriate, and it's very it's very offensive to a lot of people. Alex Jones is offending a lot of people. You gotta try and find a way to get him off. So and then look what happened. So Alex Jones can easily come out there now, and he probably is, but he can come out there and say, look what the government is doing to me. Because and what happened was Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut came out and posted a tweet and said, literally, he said it out loud. People were retweeting it and quote tweeting it and stuff, and they were saying, "Look at this guy. He's saying that this is what needs to be done." In this case, because he mentioned the Infowars in his tweet, he tweeted out that Infowars needs to be dealt with essentially, and then look what happens. They're dealt with. So what are you going to do now? So now everything on Infowars is going to be taken off, and then on top of it, in a lot of cases, Infowars, all the conspiracies and stuff that Infowars has put out, it's been explained in the mainstream media as being the same thing as what Jimmy Dore is doing. So Jimmy Dore is a host affiliated with TYT, and he said some stuff about how the chemical gas attack in Syria. I think there was a recent one. It was a few months ago. They were talking about it, and there was a chemical gas attack in Syria, and which led to America again doing strikes in Syria and destroying a bunch of areas in that country. And when Jimmy Dore came out and he attempted to debunk the chemical attack claim, people called him conspiracy theorist. There were articles being written about him in CNN saying this guy's a conspiracy theorist. This is not really good. And then look, there's another guy named Alex Jones on Infowars. Oh, okay. So what they do is they end up making that connection. And how many millions of people read these stupid fucking articles on CNN? They read that all like, oh yeah, Jimmy Dore. Let me go take a look at that guy. And then what happens? They look at all his other videos, which are substantive. Jimmy Dore isn't making anything up. But he goes out there and he puts, he states opinions on other things. Oh, and they're going to be like, oh, so that's a conspiracy too, just like that Alex Jones guy. So then everything these people end up saying ends up becoming a conspiracy because the mainstream media doesn't want all these independent entities like myself, like all the other hosts I mentioned, Jimmy Dore, Kyle Kalinske. They don't want any of these independent entities to exist because it ends up taking viewers away from CNN. And they're scared of us. They're scared of the independent outlets. They're afraid of the independent voices that can say something that's not sucking up to the establishment and sucking up to corporate power. So they want to silence you. They want to silence you anytime you say anything that's not essentially repeating the corporate establishment narrative. And if you get out of that, you're not in that Washington D.C. bubble. They don't like you. They don't want to deal with you. They don't want to have anything to do with you. They don't want you to exist. They want to silence you and they want to shut you up. And that's the whole thing with the mainstream media. So and that's why they have a lot of corporate interest. That's why if you watch shows like Meet the Press on NBC, they're a lot of their sponsors are companies like Boeing, Raytheon, a couple of other ones. A lot of like military contractors and companies that are involved in the military-industrial complex. So it's all like everything is like intertwined in creating this system where corporate powers control everything. And if that sounds like a conspiracy to you, then you just don't know what's going on. So I'm not trying to give you any conspiracies. I'm just giving you the truth. So you can take that for what it's worth. Anyway, so I've been talking for about 30 minutes now. I wanted to end this segment by saying thank you for listening. And I hope you guys check this video out, and I hope you like it. And I will be doing another rant sometime in the future. And I will see you guys next time. This has been Hammer Time with Progressive Blacksmith, and I'll see you next time. Take care.